Hi, I'm David, and I play whistle professionally here in the Dallas area. Whistle, or tin whistle, penny whistle, Irish whistle, is a very simple instrument, and you can learn hundreds of songs just by using the basic fingerings and notes. But you've probably run into a song or two that doesn't seem to fit within that, haven't you? So what do you do then? Maybe you've noticed that whistles come in different sizes and different keys. Is that the solution? Maybe you've tried to learn a traditional tune that didn't fit quite right with your whistle, or your church choir director handed you some sheet music and asked you to join in on Sunday. In this video, we're going to talk about what to do when that happens, and we'll walk through some real-world examples. So let's get started. The whistle is an amazing little instrument. It's so simple, it's easy to learn, it's easy to carry anywhere. What's not to like? You just blow in here, and put your fingers down, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and within a few seconds you can start picking out some simple tunes. One of the things that makes the whistle so simple and approachable is that it only has 6 holes. You lift up your fingers one at a time and up you go, right up the major scale. And then you do the whole thing again and blow a little harder and you go up the second octave. There you go. Instruments that play a 7-note scale like this are called diatonic instruments. But there are actually 12 notes in an octave, not 7. So clearly there are some in-between notes that we can't get to just by lifting up our fingers one at a time. If you look at a piano, you'll see 7 white keys in each octave, plus 5 black keys. The white notes play a major scale, just like our whistle, and the black keys are those in-between notes. Part of the charm of the whistle is its simplicity, just these 6 little holes. But what if we want to play a song with those in-between notes? This video has 2 parts. The first part is about musical scales on the whistle and different things we can do to play music that doesn't fall in our 7-note scale. We'll look at some traditional tunes and figure out what it takes to play them. And I'll show you a little chart that helps you work this all out, and I call this part whistle math.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
In the second part, we'll look at some arrangements for church choir that include the whistle. I found that composers and arrangers who write these may or may not really understand how whistles work, so I'll show you how to work through these issues. I'll start off with some basic musical concepts, but then we'll get into some intermediate and advanced topics pretty quickly. If you plan to play at the professional level though, this is stuff you need to know. I'll be showing a lot of printed music, but I'll also play each example so you can hear what's happening. If you play Irish or other Celtic music on whistle, you almost certainly have a whistle like this in the key of D. And you know that most traditional tunes are played in keys that work well on a D whistle, like D, obviously, and A and G. Now, you may play whistle almost entirely by ear, or maybe you're musically trained on another instrument and you prefer to stay glued to sheet music. Most of us fall in between somewhere, and that's fine. Whichever way you learn, eventually you'll find a tune or sheet music that's hard to work out. Your basic fingerings don't seem to match the notes you need, or the music goes up too high or down too low for your whistle. So how do we make this work? If we need to play one of the in-between notes, we have a couple of useful techniques. One way to do it is by half-holing, or covering just half a hole. We just slide the finger halfway off the hole, and our B note, one finger, becomes a C natural. So that's halfway in between the B and the C sharp we get by lifting all fingers. It's that in-between note. So this takes some practice to get it nice and in tune consistently, but it's really useful. And that nice bendy sound you get from rolling your finger off the hole is actually one of the whistle's most expressive and distinctive sounds, so we need a lot of that. Another way we can play those in-between or chromatic notes is with cross fingerings. For example, we can also play a C natural on most whistles by lifting the first finger up and then fingering 2, 3, 1. So here's our B, here's our C natural. See? Sometimes your whistle can do it with 2-3, sometimes it needs 2-3-1. It varies from instrument to instrument, so experiment with that. And on some of my whistles, up in the higher octave on an A, we can do 1-2-1-2, and that'll give you a solid G sharp. That's another nice in-between note that we can get easy access to. So on other whistles, these fingerings might not work, or they may have different cross fingerings. You just have to work out what's best for that instrument. As a demonstration, we're going to take a look at Irish jig, very simple Irish jig here called Jimmy Ward's. And this is going to show us, within the context of a tune, how that G natural would work. So no extra ornamentation or anything here, just the notes here. Do you see that? That's the half hole. Now we'll try it with the cross fingering. So depending on the speed or the kind of style you want that note to sound like, you can choose whichever one you want. Within our 7 diatonic notes in the key of D major, we actually have other types of scales right at our fingertips. If you start on the E and play 7 notes up, we have a different type of scale. That's called a Dorian scale. It's still the notes of the D scale, same notes, but we're going from E to E instead, and it gives us a different kind of a sound. These are called modes or modal scales. We can do the same thing starting on the 3rd note of the D major scale, F sharp or G or A or B or C sharp. And each of these has like an official sounding Greek name, but let's simplify this. The Phrygian and the Lydian and the Locrian scales are so very rarely used that I'm not going to be including them from now on. I'm also going to say major scale instead of Ionian, and I'm going to say minor scale instead of, well, for the natural minor scale instead of Aeolian. So we have 4 scales we really need to worry about: major, minor, Dorian, and Mixolydian. And that covers like 99% of the music you're going to run into. Let me play a quick tune for each of these scales. It'll just let you hear how that mode has a mood, okay? For major, we're going to use Joy to the World. Okay, that just goes kind of right down the major scale and very easy to remember. For a Dorian mode, we're going to start on the E. We're in E Dorian, so a good example for this key is Scarborough Fair. Okay. Next one is Mixolydian, which is a really important scale for Celtic music in particular. You'll hear why in a second. Here's a real simple waltz called She Moved Through the Fair. Okay. The last one is minor, our natural minor scale, starting on B. We're going to use an Irish reel here called the Otter's Holt. So here's the beginning of our whistle math chart. We have the 4 important modes for our D whistle: D major, E Dorian, A Mixolydian, and B minor. And if we can play a quality C natural, either by half holding or cross fingering, we can add G major to that list. So that's a great start. Of course, you'll eventually run into a song that's in another key, like D minor or C or B flat. And these tunes don't fit well into the range of a D whistle. We have a 2-octave range, but sometimes the notes just go too high or too low, or maybe they need those in-between notes. They're probably just written for another instrument. And this is where we have to look at whistles in different keys. So let's look at a tune that has notes too low for our D whistle. This one is called the Silver Spire. And if you look at the music, you can see there's a low A and a B and a C sharp. And sometimes we can substitute notes an octave higher and not worry about it. This is very common in traditional music, but in this tune, we're running up that scale from that low A, and that's a really charming part of the tune, and we don't want to lose it by jumping around. So I don't think octave substitution is our best solution here. What we're going to do is pick up a whistle in A. On the A whistle, the lowest note, all fingers down, is an A. And as we lift up our fingers, we play up the scale. We're going up an A major scale. So if that's A, then the next note is B, and this is C sharp. Even though we're fingering D, E, F sharp, the sound is A, B, C sharp. And that A, B, C sharp, those are the notes we need for Silver Spire, right? But this tune is in D major, so what does that mean? Well, let's walk up our scale a little bit more. A, B, C sharp, D. So now we're fingering what would be a G on our D whistle, but we're actually playing a D on our A whistle. Does that make sense? It takes a little time for that to sink in sometimes. And what that means is that in order to play the Silver Spire on an A whistle, we have to finger the tune as if it was in the key of G. So we have to transpose it. And as we discussed earlier, to play in the fingered key of G, we're going to need that C natural fingering, right? So we have to transpose our tune either on paper or in our head, which isn't the easiest thing. But there are websites that can help you, and this is a great skill to work on. Check the links down below. I'll point you to a website that you can take tunes from one website and transpose them to other keys. So to play a tune in D on an A major whistle, we're going to finger it like it's in G. It's confusing, I understand. This kind of calculation for diatonic instruments is pretty unique. It's different from a lot of other wind instruments. So I've made a little chart to help you, the Whistle Math Key Chart. The chart shows our scales: major, Dorian, Mixolydian, and minor. And in the first column, you'll see the most common keys that whistles come in. There are other keys, but they're much harder to find. The other columns show the important modes and the fingerings for the first note. So in addition to the D major fingered scale, we're including the G major fingered scale using our C natural also. So we have 2 major scales in yellow. Also, Dorian is very similar to minor except for one note, so we're going to group those 2 together in blue. By looking up the key you want to play in, D major in this case, the first thing you'll notice is that D appears in multiple places. All these are options, and options are good. We know that D major on a D whistle wasn't going to work for us because the melody went too low. So where's another D on this chart in the major yellow keys? Right there, and that's on the A whistle. Okay, does that help a little bit? To help you hear the difference, here's the Silver Spire the way you might play it on a D whistle. Did you hear how I had to jump up to the octave? Now on an A whistle, I can stay down low. Nice. In the second part, we start out on those low notes, so we have to go. So that kind of jumps around, doesn't really make much sense. On the A whistle, though, we get to go. Nice, right up the scale, get that nice low note. Okay, let's try another one. This tune is in D minor. It's called Julia Delaney's. For a minor key, we're going to be looking in the blue columns. There are two options for D minor, playing in E Dorian on a C whistle, or playing in B minor on an F whistle. So let's try them both out. That's okay, it goes up pretty high. And if we look at the B part of this tune, a few measures down the line, it goes up way too high. This tune has almost a 2-octave range, so B minor is not going to get us. It's not going to get us there. It goes up too high. So let's try it on the C whistle. The A part. And the B part. That fits pretty good. Okay, so C whistle is probably going to be our best choice for that tune. One more. This one's called Tam Lin, and it's in D minor too, so we have the same two options, our C whistle and our F whistle. So let's try them both. On our C whistle, we're going to be in E Dorian. Okay, we had to use our C natural in there to get the natural minor in E minor. Okay, let's try it on the F whistle. On F, we're going to be playing in B minor. So, okay, one nice thing is now we're actually down in a lower octave. That's cool. That's going to be in the same octave as our fiddle player that's probably playing this tune too, because they love this. It's really a fiddle tune originally. So I like that. I think F sounds better. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. It actually, also you can actually stay in the right octave for the whole tune, which you're going to have a problem on the C whistle when you get to that second part of the tune. So these are the decisions we have to make. You've got your chart there. Take a look at it and then give your options a try. Try and see which sounds better, captures the right mood, falls the nicest on the whistle. Sometimes it's just a matter of it's more fun to play on this whistle instead of that one. So that's okay. I hope this helps you figure out which scale and which whistle gets you closest to making a tune work. A couple of other tips. Are there any notes in the scale that aren't used in the tune? That could give you more options. For example, if a tune is in a major key but it doesn't use the 7th note of the scale, the mixolydian column becomes a new possibility. So keep an eye out for that. A lot of folk tunes use only 4, 5, 6 notes in the scale. Another tip. Are there any other cross fingerings that work on your whistle? As I mentioned, some of my whistles get a really solid G sharp, 1, 2, 1, 2 in the upper octave, and that lets me play in A major in addition to the A mixolydian. Final tip, can you get away with leaving a note out or substituting another note that harmonizes well with what's going on around you? Sometimes that's, if you just got one note that's giving you a problem, just find another note that fits. If you're playing with others around you, it really doesn't matter too much. It can be a creative choice, you know. So these are several of the strategies that can help you play along with a tune that at first glance doesn't seem to fit on your whistle. Have you tried other methods? Do you have some other ideas? Leave them below in the comments. And while you're there, please hit like and subscribe if this has been helpful.